Blessings, brothers and sisters. It's me, Lori Ann Spagna, here with you today to give you a little update and a guide, short guide to navigating this particular Lionsgate portal, which is now officially opened at the start and the onset of August. While it begins to open in the final week of July, it's always officially open at the beginning of August. It begins opening during the time when the astrological sign shifts from Cancer to Leo. So now we're officially in the Leo astrological time, part of time in astrology, and it stays open to the end of the Leo astrology and even weans off through the end of August. Now, the peak period is right now at the opening of August, at the onset of August, and through the final week after the 8th. The peak, of course, is on the date of August 8th, which is noted in numerology as 8-8, and 8 and 8 together are 16. 16 in numerology, sacred numerology, equates to a karmic unfolding of heart-centered awakening and coming into heart-centered love and compassion for self, other, and all that is. And so by divine appointment, and as it is indicated both astrologically and numerologically, this particular 8-8 date is an annual divine appointment for all of humanity and beyond into the cosmos for the awakening, and for the not only the awakening and the unification of humanity, but also for the liberation of humanity in terms of shifting out of being in a sort of an experience of separation, which is linked to a lot of pain and suffering, and into an awakening of a heart-centered connection with the divine, with one another, with all that is, which is a liberation of love, of happiness, of joy, and of sacred union and connection and reunion. Now, right there, that is a mouthful. If you know me and have followed me, this information isn't necessarily that new to you. However, what is new and what most people are very unaware of is that because this is the first Lionsgate since 2020, and 2020 was the birth of the third wave of Ascension, this particular Lionsgate is even more significant than most others. Now, what I'd like to guide you to is first the recognition that as we are shifting out of left analytical brain ways of doing things and into heart-centered ways of doing things, we are all going through really challenging times, as we can see. We saw that in 2020. That's not resolved yet, obviously, we can see. And this shifting period of this third wave could last likely for, well, certainly the intensity will continue to last for the next few years, but the changes that are underway on planet Earth are just beginning. We have likely a 15-year cycle approximately of very intense changes. Now, what 2020 allowed for was, this is why this particular Lionsgate is so unique and different as the first Lionsgate after 2020, is that because the 2020 was a massive cleansing and a massive breakdown of the old density, the heaviness, the darkness, the shadow, the secrecy, the manipulation, the coercion, etc., a breakdown of that which upheld the old structures and systems which were designed to enslave and entrap humanity in darkness, in density, in pain, in suffering, in isolation, in sickness, in illness, in poverty, in lack, in limitation. this is just the beginning, right? This is the first Lionsgate since then, since 2020. So all of that density that's been being broken down, just brought to the light in 2020, is now going to be basically broken down and transmuted over the next 15 years. And it's particularly challenging for humans who don't realize it when it's happening. I know I myself, have moments of just being stuck in my own moments of extreme challenge where I know I'm entangled in my human to-do list. I know in that moment I'm entangled in my own experience of, got to get things done or got to move forward, like my own will pushing through. And in those moments, it's very challenging to see that that's what's going on until I'm sort of liberated from it in my own experience. That's happening for all of us. We get entangled in our own dramas and our beliefs and our old programming, the old ways of operating, and we don't see in the moment that we are operating from some old way of believing, perceiving, and not from our heart center, and not from a deeper level of realizing that most of it is quite petty. We don't realize that in the moment. We don't realize. Of course, the big issues that really hit our collective were not petty. Those are not petty issues, but our own day-to-day smallness of, the small experiences of our lives that tend to entrap us and entangle us. Most of the time, we don't realize, and the Lionsgate is bringing that up for us on personal levels. Of course, the bigger pictures are much more significant. We know, those are death, disease, divorce, trauma, like those real core issues are massively part of the picture. And so navigating this window becomes opportunity to really, really disengage from kind of like the smallness of and the pettiness of our own personal limitations, and also realizing the bigger visionary picture of what's going on for the collective, which is a massive clearing of these old systems and structures that we've relied on. And the Lionsgate portal is is this peak window of time that allows us to clear this out from our own selves and to become more consciously aware of it within ourselves so that we can further liberate ourselves from that old experience. Now, this is way easier said than done, and certainly not that easy to communicate in, right now with like a 10-minute recording. But what I'm doing my best to convey to you is that these windows are so extraordinary for us because on the other side of these kind of like gateway windows, we become so much more freed up and liberated from any form of like our own pain and discomfort, from our own smallness of thinking, of perceiving. And there's no shame in that because we're shifting out of this old kind of game of duality, division, divide, conquer, control, power games, power struggle games, which are so silly, really. And we shift into deeper levels of love and understanding and realizing it's just we don't have to play that way anymore. We can expand into so much more greatness. We're so much greater, right, than what we've been playing at. And through our greatness, we get to share that with one another and with ourselves. And this is what we're being called to. So every year at the Lionsgate window, our brothers and sisters from the intergalactic tribes, especially the Sirians, which are basically, Sirians are the beings who are primarily eighth dimensional beings who controlled the Syrian gates, and who mostly facilitated the buildings of the pyramidal structures in Egypt, the pyramids, and they worked with incredible sacred geometries. And 8 is in and of itself 8, the number 8, if you just look at it as a figure, it is a pattern of sacred geometry, which could be equated to a Vesica Pisces. If you understand that, it's so powerful. It's so incredibly potent for us. And so participating energetically in a group activity where we are actively engaging with our Syrian brothers and sisters who are key holders, in a sense, to our future, to the evolution of humanity. We also are key holders. You see, if you look at 8, it is two circles that are interacting together in a perfect and pure way. And so they're assisting us to really awaken the God spark, the divinity of that divine source within us. And the Syrian collective, as galactic beings who are our brethren, who built these portals on Earth through the pyramidal structures in Egypt and through their sacred patterns of geometry, are meeting us during this time. Now, those of us who feel that call and don't hear something like this and think it's crazy or strange, we know somehow within us that this is the time to awaken and activate these connections, these divine connections within us, and that it must be done through a sacred ritual, in sacred circle, in sacred communion, and through this sacred connection and communion with our Syrian brothers and sisters and other galactic beings, members of intergalactic councils and tribunals who are here to support us through this changing of the guard, so to speak, from the old, more malevolent beings and into the new, more benevolent structures. They're here to assist us. And so when we join in sacred communion and connection with them on this divinely appointed day, we unite with them and we come into our reunion and more of our remembering. And then collectively, when we join in community, because we are large collectives, we also facilitate helping the rest of humanity, because our collective is consciously choosing our future and awakening through a way that is divinely aligned and in agreement with the divine plan for us. And you see, this is one of the things, I have not shared this with many people, but I've gone through this through divine channeling, my own divine connection with Source and the galactic beings with whom I work and whom I represent as a collective of my own collective community, that the planets are and the astrological windows like this one are the way that the divine has opportunity to intervene through us while still using our free will consent, which is why it's so important for us to participate, actively engage and participate during these windows, these divine appointments. Now, I've been working on this kind of work now for over 20 years, activating the DNA and awakening the codes within us, within myself, which is why I'm able to do this now and facilitate it for so many others like you and all of my brothers and sisters who are part of this community. And it just never stops astounding me how much richness and deepness, the depth of what there is to uncover, and how incredibly profound these transformational changes are, and how beneficial they are for humanity, even those who are still really asleep. Through this kind of awakening within myself, I've become so deeply engaged with my brothers and sisters of the galactics, not only the Syrians and the Syrian High Council, but the intergalactic High Councils who are here helping us, who I consider to be members of my collective, or I am a member of the collective. We are all participating in this. So it's just so incredibly profound. And I know that this is not readily accessible to the mainstream. I know there are very, very few who are able to do this. I know it is a rare anomaly. Like, it is so rare to be able to connect with this kind of depth, to access these beings, because of course most of these are, the Palladians are 7th and 8th dimensional, generally 9th dimensional, 10th dimensional. Sirians are typically 8th dimensional, 9th dimensional beings, and then we get into many who are even beyond that, 11th, 12th dimensional beings, who are so available to us during this window to help us to awaken and unlock these dormant codes within us. It's such an incredible phenomenon. And so for this reason, this is why I've been able to discover and uncover these codes, these key codes within us, these profound templates. I've been working with templates more and more. Oh my goodness, they're all in the DNA, and they are just waiting to be unlocked so that we can really resolve these issues that have been really brought to the surface, that have basically destructed the old of 2020, that will continue to destruct that which is no longer serving the collective, and which will enable us to find our core, to uncover and find and discover within us our core, the new foundation which is coming from within us. The new foundation that gives us our new sense of stability, that gives us our new sense of certainty and safety. That is within us. And this foundation, I am discovering for myself, is so strong, it's so secure, it's so firm, it's so stable. I'm just tapping into it now. Even it feels so good, and it is so safe. It is a whole new language of safety. It cannot be provided from anything in the external world, and it cannot be taken from the external world by the external world, as much as that might seem like what is happening, because people who are not in touch with this have not discovered it yet within themselves. And that's why we join and we unite, because not only do we awaken and activate more of it within us, it's in these templates, and that is what we will be sharing. It really allows us to elevate, to expand, and yes, to upload, to elevate our frequency, our vibration, of course, and to recalibrate our vibratory state to even higher and higher levels of dimensional awareness, dimensional existence. That's why I know I am part of this collective of these extraterrestrial star family races who are already interacting with me, and who I facilitate the interaction with my community, right? And you're part of that because you're listening to this here. And I play with these light codes throughout the year, wherever I am. All of these different codes, codons, codexes, templates, and all of the universal laws, are working with me on an ongoing basis to really navigate what I'm allowed to do under divine law, universal law, and how I share this with others. That's part of my divine purpose. So I know this window of time is so important for us now, especially because those of us who are in this kind of awareness, and that means you, if you're listening to me and you're not in a state of skepticism or judgment of thinking this is crazy, if you're listening to me, chances are you're not. But there are people out there who hear this stuff and just think it's crazy, or their skeptic goes on, or their cynic comes out, and that's okay. And I love and embrace you too. However, for those of you who are listening and hearing this and recognizing the realness of this, then you understand that your participation is what allows the collective to undergo the upcoming changes with much more ease, grace, and benevolence. And you know that your participation is what allows humanity to go through, because 2020 could have been a lot worse. It also could have been a lot better, I'm sorry to say. And so the years ahead, they will become easier and easier and more graceful and more benevolent, because those of us who hear this call participate and show up. And the DNA work that we do helps all of our ancestors and certainly our descendants, and certainly us too. So this is why the call is so strong. This is why this particular gate and portal is so significant. And this is why these light transmissions and these infusements that we're sharing are ushering us into this golden age that is already available to us. And I know I spend a lot of my time, when I'm in my best, I am in it. And it is just brilliant and magnificent. And it's only when I'm still playing in the physicality of the doing that it's not always as fun, but it is available. And the more we all participate, the more we all engage actively, the more we all choose to hear the call and to take appropriate action, the more reality in the physical world will unfold with so much more benevolence, with so much more grace, with so much more divinity for humanity. The whole of humanity does indeed really truly benefit, because we are the ones as way showers, as change agents, as light workers, and yes, as starseeds who are doing the heavy lifting, the inner calling, the inner clearing. And now for us, it's getting easier and easier to do this because we understand this, right? And one of the key things we want to work on this year, and in my next newsletter, I will also include, I've been meaning to include some of the particular keys we'll be activating and the templates. But what I want to say is that we're really focused on reclaiming our right, our divine birthright to be free, to be sentient, to be happy and joyous, to live prosperously, which means that we get to continue to prosper and to live abundantly, and to reclaim our right to our own divinity instead of some separate false sky god, that sort of judges and condemns and makes us bad sinners. Like that's not true. We are love. We are love at the core of our beings. And we are pure divine source once we can clear out all these lifetimes of interference. And as we do this, we will also, as I said, help our brothers and sisters of humanity to also be really, truly liberated from, the DNA. I'll say the word. I hope it's okay with you. Please don't get mad at me. The DNA fuckery. I say it with laughter and joy in my heart because I know all of it. All of this madness will be cleaned up. And this portal gate is one of those times where we get to really make difference, such a massive difference for ourselves. So, okay, I think I've said enough for now. I hope this has been helpful to you to sort of see the big picture, to understand the navigating of this portal window. And we're still building to the peak in the next few days. So I hope you will join me for this powerful, powerful transmission of light, of consciousness on the Lionsgate 88. Of course, you know me. Go to my website to join us, LoriSpagna.com. And under the tab of the live events tab, you will see the speed activations Lionsgate portal event listed there, right? Under live events tab, you'll see speed activations, DNA, sacred key codes, star code marking activations. You click on that, and that's where you go ahead and register. Please make sure you get in there before the last minute, because the rate will go up. I do my best to keep the rates down, but and please don't ask me after the rate goes up if you can have the old rate, because it ends up giving us all kinds of extra work. The administration is very challenging for me at this time, and I'm doing my best to keep rates low. So I ask you, don't wait till the last minute. Register now before the rates go up, because that's how I recoup the administrative costs for when people do things like late, or when people ask for extra benefits. It starts taking a lot more administrative time, energy, and brings me out of my divine flow and is really challenging. So register now before the rate goes up and join us. It's worth way more than what we fairly charge for it, the fair financial compensation to cover. And this is lifetimes of work I'm sharing here, lifetimes of dedication. So the call typically lasts, almost 4 hours typically. And there is, of course, there's a whole lot of channeling and information that comes through, explanation of all the codes, the codons, the templates, the activations, and that really expands people. So many people write me how much they've been changed and transformed forever because of this. And then, of course, we have at least it's typically a full hour or longer of the actual activations, downloads, and transmissions. So it's a long call, but you do get the recording, and you can, of course, you can do it as often as you want. In other words, I hope you'll be there live with us for the whole event. And I also know that the energy is coming through source and these higher dimensional realms and our star family brothers and sisters, where there is no limitation on time or space. So it's also just as effective in replay. I also want to say, of course, for those of you who know me, the animals are always included, and our children who are under the age of 17 are also always automatically included, even though technically they're not necessary. They don't need to listen, right? You as a parent or guardian facilitates that, and of course I facilitate it. So, all right, I think I've said enough. This went way longer than I had hoped or intended, but there it is. I hope this has been helpful to you. I am so grateful to you as part of this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating and joining us. Thank you for showing up. The next Lionsgate Speed Activations Call webinar is both by video and audio. Join us by heading over to LoriSpagna.com. Under the Live Events tab, you will see the link to Speed Activations, DNA, Sacred Key Code, and Star Code Markings, and we will explore and uncover even more of this. I wish you the most wonderful and benevolent Lionsgate, and I hope to see you at the live event on that day, 8/8. And as I said, you will get the recording as well once you register. And between now and then, I am sending you all of my love, my joy, my happiness, my well-being for you and for all of humanity, all of our brothers and sisters. I love you and I bless you and I thank you so much. And I will see you on 8/8 Lionsgate. Until then, lots of love. Okay, bye-bye.